Imagine the scene. The sun hangs high and heavy in the sky, a relentless furnace beating down on the dusty roads of ancient Judea. The air is thick with the smell of dry earth, sweat, and livestock. A crowd is moving, a flowing river of people, all drawn by a single powerful force, the man known as Jesus of Nazareth. They have heard the stories, whispers that have grown into a roar, stories of the blind given sight, of the lame leaping like deer, of demons cast out with nothing more than a word. Hope, a currency often in short supply, is now being traded in abundance. In the midst of this moving crowd, a different sound cuts through the murmur, a desperate, guttural cry. It's a sound of pain, of isolation, of a suffering so profound it has stripped away all dignity. The source of this cry is not one person, but 10. And as the crowd instinctively parts, creating a wide, empty circle around them, the reason for their isolation becomes horrifyingly clear. These men are lepers. To us, the word might conjure images of a specific skin disease, but in the first-century world of Judea, leprosy, or tsarat, as it was known, was so much more. It was a living death. The book of Leviticus, the ancient law that governed every aspect of Jewish life, was brutally clear on this matter. A person with a skin disease like this was declared unclean. It wasn't just a medical diagnosis, it was a social and spiritual death sentence. They were to live in isolation, outside the city walls, away from their families, their synagogues, their entire world. They could not enter the temple to worship or offer sacrifices. They could not touch their children, hold their wives, or shake a friend's hand. If anyone approached, they were legally and religiously obligated to cry out, "Unclean, unclean," as a warning. They were walking ghosts, visible to all, but forbidden to connect with anyone. Their bodies were slowly wasting away, but their souls were being consumed by the poison of loneliness long before the disease claimed their lives. And so, these 10 men stand at a distance. It's a physical distance, mandated by law, but it represents an even greater chasm. The chasm between the clean and the unclean, the whole and the broken, the included and the outcast. They are a mixed group, a detail the gospel writer Luke, a physician himself, carefully includes. Among them are Jews, the people of the covenant, and at least one Samaritan.
This is not a minor detail. The animosity between Jews and Samaritans was a deep, centuries-old wound. It was a hatred rooted in history, theology, and culture. Jews considered Samaritans heretical half-breeds who worshipped in the wrong place and followed a corrupted version of the faith. Samaritans, in turn, were deeply resentful of their Jewish neighbors. A Jew would not eat with a Samaritan, drink from a cup they had used, or even travel through their land if another route was available. And yet here, in this pit of shared suffering, the great wall of division has crumbled. Leprosy, the great equalizer, has made them brothers in misery. They are no longer Jew and Samaritan, but simply 10 desperate men, united by their brokenness and their last flickering spark of hope. From across this gulf, their voices rise together, a ragged chorus of despair. "Jesus, Master!" they cry out, the word Master a sign of their respect and their plea. "Have pity on us." They don't ask for healing, not directly. They ask for pity, for compassion, for a moment of recognition in a world that has turned its back on them. They see in this traveling rabbi not just a miracle worker, but a master, one who has authority over the very forces that have ravaged their lives. Jesus stops. The crowd grows silent. He looks at them. He doesn't shrink back in fear or disgust. He meets their gaze, seeing not just the disease, but the men trapped beneath it.
And then he speaks. His words are not a dramatic incantation. There is no laying on of hands, no spittle in the dust. His command is simple, yet it is the most profound test of faith they could ever be given. He says, "Go show yourselves to the priests." Now, this command must have landed like a stone in their hearts. To be declared clean by a priest was the final step, the official certification of healing that would allow them to re-enter society. But that step came after the healing. It was the confirmation, not the cause. To a leper, the journey to the priest was the destination at the end of a miracle they had not yet received. It was like telling a man who cannot walk to run to the finish line to collect his prize. Jesus was asking them to act as if it were already done. He was calling them to a radical preemptive faith, a faith that begins not with seeing, but with obeying, a faith that takes the first step into an impossible promise, trusting the one who made it. And so they went. As one, the 10 men turn away from Jesus and begin the walk. We can only imagine what that walk was like. Each step an act of will. Each step a battle against the screaming evidence of their own senses. With every footfall, they must have felt the familiar roughness of their own skin, the open sores, the aching in their bones. But they kept walking. They walked in faith, a raw, desperate, beautiful faith. And then it happened. Luke's account is simple, direct, and breathtaking. And as they went, they were cleansed. It wasn't a sudden flash of lightning. It was a process that unfolded in the journey of obedience. Somewhere between the command to go and the arrival at the priest's door, a change occurred. The rough, scaly skin began to soften, to smooth, to glow with new life. Nerves, long dead, began to tingle. Fingers and toes, lost to numbness, could feel again. It was a restoration not just of flesh, but of being itself. They were whole. Imagine the joy, the shock, the disbelief that gives way to overwhelming, tearful gratitude. They are healed. They can go home. They can embrace their families. They can stand in the temple and worship God again. The curse is broken. The 9 Jewish men continue on their way. Their mission is clear. Their goal is the priest, the official validation, the return to their old lives. It is a logical, understandable, and holy pursuit. They are obeying the letter of Jesus' command and the law of Moses. They are eager to be restored. But one man doesn't. One of them, the Samaritan, stops. He turns back. The text says, "When he saw that he was healed, he came back, praising God in a loud voice." He forgets the priest. He forgets the protocol. He forgets everything in the face of this incredible, undeserved gift. He is driven by one single, all-consuming impulse: gratitude. He runs back to Jesus. This is a profound act. A leper running was an unheard-of sight. And he falls at Jesus' feet. This is even more profound. He, a Samaritan, an unclean man, throws himself at the feet of a Jewish rabbi, touching him in an act of worship that would have scandalized any onlooker. He is weeping, laughing, shouting his thanks to God in a loud voice, his gratitude a public spectacle. Jesus looks down at the man at his feet, and then his gaze lifts, scanning the road where the other 9 have disappeared. And he asks a question that echoes through the centuries, a question not for the 9 who are gone, but for the crowd around him and for us listening today. Were not all 10 cleansed? He asks. Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner? And then he speaks words that are both a blessing and a gentle, heartbreaking observation. He says to the Samaritan, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." The other 9 were cleansed. The Greek word is katharizo, meaning they were made physically clean, their disease removed. But this one, the thankful one, is made well. The word here is sozo. It's a bigger word. It means to save. It's the same word used for salvation. The 9 received a miraculous physical healing. The 10th received that and something more. He received a wholeness that connected his soul to his Savior. In his act of returning and giving thanks, he completed the circle of grace. He didn't just receive a gift, he honored the giver. And in that moment of worship, he found a salvation that went far beyond the skin. This story, so often read in the season of Thanksgiving, is not just about saying thank you. It is a profound lesson on the very nature of gratitude and faith. The 9 were not necessarily bad people. They were likely just normal. They were eager to get on with their lives, to cash in their miracle, to reintegrate into the world they had lost. Their focus was on the blessing. But the 10th, the outsider, the one who had the least reason to hope, understood that the blessing was meaningless without the blesser. He knew that the true gift was not just the restoration of his skin, but the encounter with the God who stood before him. His gratitude was the doorway to a deeper relationship, a true salvation. How often are we like the 9? We receive blessings from God, health, provision, safety, success, and we rush off to enjoy them, to show ourselves to the priests of our own ambitions and plans, forgetting the very source from which they came. We treat God like a cosmic vending machine, receiving the gift and moving on without a second thought. But God invites us to be like the One, to stop, to turn back, to fall at His feet, not just to ask for things, but to give thanks, to recognize that every good gift is a sign of His character, an invitation to know Him more. True thanksgiving is not just a polite gesture. It is the posture of a heart that understands its own dependence and God's overwhelming grace. It is the one thing that in the end distinguishes those who are merely blessed from those who are truly, eternally well.